All right, everybody, welcome back. This is the second part of going over cell organelles. So we're going to finish them up, all of the organelles you're going to learn about this year. Today we're going to talk about the chloroplast, the mitochondria, the vacuoles, the ribosomes, something called the endoplasmic reticulum, which is way too long to talk about, so we call it the ER for short, the Golgi bodies, and finally the lysosomes. So when we're looking at this cell, okay, we're going to first talk about the chloroplast. Now I should tell you, you should have your notes open to the second page so that you can see in your notes, it says at the top, how is energy made in the cell, right? What we're going to look at right now is a plant cell. So chloroplasts are only found in plant cells, okay? Their main job is that big process that plants do to make food. Does anybody know what that's called? Hopefully you're saying to yourself right now that it is photosynthesis. If you said photosynthesis, that's correct. That is how plants ultimately make food. So they make food using the sunlight, and that sunlight energy, that sun energy, gets produced chemically, altered, inside the chloroplasts. Okay, so what happens is we have this chemical equation where carbon dioxide gas, water, and sunlight all go into the plant cell, and chemically, it's like magic, but chemically, oxygen is produced and glucose. Glucose is what we call food. Okay, so that's a type of sugar, and that is what the plant produces as their food. So before, you learn that plants do photosynthesis to make food, and that is correct. Now we're going to step up our vocabulary a little bit, and we're going to call that food glucose, okay? The oxygen is actually a waste product. So in your notes, what I need you to fill in, your notes say photosynthesis. Plants use carbon dioxide, water, and sunlight, so that's a fill-in, that should be underlined, I apologize, sunlight, to make glucose and oxygen. So sunlight needs to be filled in, and then the word oxygen. So I'll give you a minute to fill those in. Okay, when we look at photosynthesis, again, we are looking at the plant leaves. That is where the chloroplasts are found. They are found inside the plant leaves. Okay, the sunlight goes into the plant leaves. The chloroplasts react with that light energy. There is a chemical inside that chloroplast called chlorophyll. Okay, the energy is captured and changed into food for the plant, and that food we call glucose. Okay, so this is the chemical equation. On this side of the equation, this is what goes into the leaves, and ultimately this is what comes out of the leaves. Oxygen does come out. Okay, now we're going to learn in just a moment that plants do complete respiration. So plants will use oxygen to breathe, just like you and I breathe. Plants need to breathe as well. Okay, and we'll get into that. But you know that plants take in sunlight, carbon dioxide, water, and they produce food and oxygen. And that's why it's always good to talk to your plants, because they like your carbon dioxide, and you can breathe in the oxygen they're producing. All right, moving on. Now what we're going to look at is an organelle called the mitochondria. And I like to say this is the mighty mitochondria. Okay? It's mighty, it's powerful, it's packed full of energy. And that's the main job of this organelle, is to make energy. You'll notice in here, these big green things were the chloroplasts, but these little guys are the mighty mitochondria, and there's a bunch of them within a cell. Do you know what kind of cell would have a lot of mitochondria? Think about it. What type of cell would need to produce a lot of energy? If you said the muscle cells, you are correct. They have a bunch of mitochondria in them, and the reason they have that is so that they can produce energy. Okay, so how that happens, in your notes, the process is called cellular respiration. Okay, so that's the word you're filling in, respiration. We'll go into how that works in just a moment. So these little kind of sausage-looking guys are the mitochondria, all right? And they take in, when you take in oxygen, when you breathe in oxygen and you eat your food, that goes through a chemical reaction and you produce energy, okay? And carbon dioxide gas. That's how right now I know you're producing energy, because you are breathing out carbon dioxide gas. That's the waste product. Okay, so when we look at it, there are two types of cellular respiration. Oops, let me go back, sorry. There are two types of cellular respiration. There is aerobic, so this guy's doing aerobics, and you need oxygen, okay, when you do aerobics. So you take in food, that's the glucose. Remember, we stepped up our vocabulary, and we're calling our food now glucose, okay, plus oxygen. Take a deep breath in. And release it. You release out carbon dioxide gas. Water gets recycled in your body, okay? And ATP. We're going to learn as we go through our cell processes unit that ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate. Again, a big word, so we break it down and call it ATP. What that basically means is energy. Okay, so this guy produces energy. Really important. So aerobic respiration occurs in your cells, and that's where we use oxygen. Another type of respiration is anaerobic respiration, and this is where your cells do not need oxygen to produce energy. You don't get to produce as much energy as you would if you used oxygen. But sometimes, like if you're in a sprinting race, your muscles will go into anaerobic and respiration to produce energy, because you're working so fast you don't produce as much oxygen to the cells as needed. So you'll produce lactic acid, and you know that because your muscles get sore after you've used them for a while. Okay, another process for this is called fermentation, and we use that to make bread. That's why bread rises. And it also makes like beer, wine, champagne. So those people that are involved in making beer, wine, and champagne, they use yeast to ferment. And it uses the sugars and produces carbon dioxide gas, which makes it rise. Okay, so that's another type of respiration. All right, but both of them produce energy, and that's the big term there. Okay, moving on. That's the mitochondria. Now we're on the next page where it says packaging. Movement in and out of the cell. How does it happen? What happens with these guys called the vacuoles, okay? In a plant cell, we're going to see that the vacuoles are huge. Look how big this vacuole is, okay? This vacuole is larger in a plant. Animals do have vacuoles. They're just smaller. Floats within the cytoplasm, and its main job is to hold food and water. So your fill-in on your paper is food and water. So go ahead and fill that in. All right. In a plant cell, it has a big vacuole because they can't pull their roots up and walk to a pond to get water. So in times of drought, when water is not plentiful, this guy, the cell relies upon this vacuole that's filled with water to use it. And then when it rains and they get more water, it fills back up. And then they use it, and then it rains again, and it fills back up, or you water them. So that's why a vacuole in a plant is larger than in an animal. All right, moving on. The next one are the ribosomes. These guys kind of look like pepper within the cell. They're found within the cytoplasm and sometimes on this ER, and we'll talk about that, but they're the like pepper-like appearance here. And they're just these little dots, but their job is so important. They make protein. So we talked earlier how your body makes proteins. These guys make proteins, and that's your fill-in. So go ahead and fill that in. If you need to pause it because I'm moving too fast, by all means, go for it. Okay, the next one is the endoplasmic reticulum. But again, that's such a big word. We shorten it and call it the ER. This, again, is found in plant and animal cells, okay? And its main job is transportation system. On your notes, underline transportation system. Okay, it transports those proteins that were made throughout the cell. Okay, it transports them throughout the cell. So that's all it does, is it moves them throughout the cell. And then they ultimately move to what we call, these kind of look like stacked pancakes, but we call these the Golgi bodies. So once those proteins move along the ER, they head to the Golgi bodies, and you'll notice these little like circle-like appearances. These are called vacuoles in an animal cell. These vacuoles contain proteins or other things that the cell wants to package up, and then they ship them out of the cell through the cell membrane, okay? So in your notes, you're writing down the word package underneath Golgi bodies. The last one we're going to go through are the lysosomes. These are found mostly in animal cells, sometimes in plants, but mostly in animal cells. They're found floating inside the cytoplasm, and their main job is to recycle. So these guys are the recyclers of the cell. That's your fill-in, the recyclers of the cell. But anytime something is dead or needs to be broken down into smaller pieces, these guys take care of that. They have enzymes within them. Remember, your body makes enzymes to speed up chemical reactions. So these guys have enzymes in them, and they actually break things down. A cool little fact, if these guys rupture, if these lysosomes rupture, they will actually eat away the cell until it dies. So these guys need to stay contained in their little capsules there so that those enzymes don't leak out and eat away the rest of the cell. So to kind of finish up, we've studied both plant and animal cells. There are major differences between these two different types of cells. Animal is over here. Plant cell is over here. One major difference, plant cells have a cell wall. Animals do not. Plant cells have chloroplasts. Animal cells do not. And plant cells have a large vacuole. Animal cells do not. We'll focus more on this tomorrow, but I wanted to kind of preview this so you have an idea. Okay, so again, plant cells have a cell wall on the outside. Animal cells don't. Plant cells have these green chloroplasts. Animal cells don't. Plant cells have this large vacuole, where animal cells do not. The rest of this slide, you can pause or go through it. You can kind of quiz yourself on the different parts, what they might be. I have them numbered out here, so you can kind of quiz yourself. Same thing here. This is a cross-section of an animal cell. You'll notice there are different parts that we're not going to study. And if you click on it, it'll tell you what they are. So again, you can pause the video, rewind, and go back through. All right, that concludes all of the cell organelles. I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and we'll move on from here.